The Call of the Soil, Part 2. We were clear that we would not use any chemicals and tried to explain it to him. He reacted as if we had suggested harakiri. Harakiri is a formal way of killing yourself by cutting open your stomach with a sword. So it took a lot of convincing to ensure that Moru Dada and his friends did not use chemicals on the farm. They refused to understand how crops could grow without sprays. Contrary to what everyone had told us, nature did her job, and she needed no bribes to get the work done. Soon it was harvest time, and we managed a respectable 300 kilograms, an awful lot of moong, and with it a lot of confidence. Now I was certain the land was fertile and that it was possible to grow crops without chemicals. It was a major morale booster. The scent of rice. The first year I was late for the rice sowing season and had to resort to growing the GR4 variety that was short term and recommended by the agricultural officers at Cosbit. The next year we decided that we would start early and try to find some good traditional variety of rice to grow. We had read about traditional varieties of rice and knew that they did not require very high inputs of fertilizers. These varieties were also quite strong and resisted pests. We were sure that it was this type of rice that would grow well in our farm, where we did not use any chemicals at all. Our previous year's experience and low yield had taught us a lesson, and we were sure we would not plant hybrid this year. In April 2005, we started to look for a good variety of traditional rice. It was one of our neighbors in the village, a businessman from Mumbai who owned land, who suggested that we plant a local scented variety of rice. Most of the farmers in and around the village of Peth had switched over to hybrids. The younger generations of farmers thought I was crazy to ask for the Desi variety as they called it. My regular visits to village around searching for a good traditional variety also did not yield any results, and we were almost giving up hope. I decided to give it one last try and spoke to Baban's father and some other elders. After many meaningful conversations, they mentioned the name of Kasbai. Kasbai is a traditional long-grained rice variety which has a distinct aroma, though much milder than Basmati. It is a long-duration crop, and most of the older people remember growing it years ago. But they all shook their heads when I asked them about the seeds, and they told me it had disappeared. The tales of Kasbai made us more determined to get it. We decided that if we did manage to get some seed, this would be a great rice to grow. I thought the government may know something about it. A visit to the agricultural officer was enlightening. He had not even heard of this rice variety. He said the villagers were taking me for a ride, and there was no rice by this name. He rattled off the names of a number of latest hybrids and even offered to give me some of them free of cost for a trial. Cursing myself for wasting time with him, I moved on to the next destination. This time it was the Adivasi Mahamandal at Kasa, which buys rice from the Adivasi villagers on behalf of the government. Kashbai did not figure in their files, a good indication why people did not grow it anymore. The market itself did not recognize the rice, so if you grew it, you would not be able to sell it. However, the officer in charge here had more knowledge of rice and did remember Kasbai being sold to him a few years ago. So when I in Dhaniwari, Baban and I started looking for Devu Handa and found a graying old man wearing a cap sitting outside his house on a charpoy. an ex-sarpanch of the village. He had acres of land, a huge house, and a large family. After exchanging the usual pleasantries, we came to the topic of Kasbai. The mere mention of Kasbai and Devu Handa drifted into the past. His eyes turned dreamy, and with a tremble in his voice, he told us how the entire village at one time grew only Kasbai. He said there was a time when people passing our village during lunchtime would be forced to stop and ask for a meal. Such was the alluring aroma of Kasbai. The entire area would have this heady aroma hanging in the air as all the houses cooked the same rice. Today, he said, no one grew Kasbai and everyone had shifted to growing the new hybrid varieties. He claimed he had to force himself to eat this rice that was so insipid. With the advent of irrigation, farmers were tempted to grow a second crop, and Kasbai, being a long duration rice, was replaced by the shorter duration hybrids so that the harvest could be done earlier. This ensured that the farmers could take up a second crop. I asked why he had shifted it if he was so unhappy with the hybrids. No one forced him to, did they? He smiled and replied that their fields did not have fences, and once the harvest was over, the cattle were released into the fields. If my field alone has Kasbai, it will be a treat for the cattle, he explained. Sometimes we have to fall in line with the community, he lamented. Hybrids need more water, fertilizers, and pesticides. He said that yields were good initially, but of late had reduced a lot.